This morning, I think I have to share some reflections on the recent Canadian federal election and the implications of the election for our Jewish community. Let me begin by acknowledging that speaking about politics from the pulpit is a delicate matter. It is fraught with risk, not just because politics is inherently divisive, but because we as a community hold diverse views, and I think that needs to be acknowledged, and that diversity is a strength. I invite you to listen, to reflect, and to engage, but there's no rule that says you have to agree with everything I say. Judaism thrives on vigorous debate. It's how we seek truth. But for this conversation to be fruitful, we ought to approach it with generosity and patience and kindness and understanding that what we have in common, our shared Jewish identity, binds us even when we differ. Let's ground ourselves in the history of Jewish life in Canada. This is a story of refuge and resilience. Canada has long been a haven for Jews fleeing persecution, seeking a better life. That's our story in this country. In the 18th century, the earliest Jewish settlers arrived, some tracing their roots to the expulsion of Jews from Spain and Portugal. By the 19th and 20th centuries, waves of Jewish immigrants came from Eastern Europe, escaping pogroms and economic hardship. During and after the Holocaust, Canada opened its doors, imperfectly but meaningfully, to survivors seeking safety. In more recent decades, Jews from South Africa, Morocco, Argentina, and beyond chose Canada, believing it to be a place where we could live openly as Jews, free from government interference or rampant public anti-Semitism. We built synagogues, schools, hospitals, community centers. The Jewish story in this country is a story of us weaving our traditions into the fabric of this diverse nation. Yet today, many of us feel that the golden age of Jewish life in Canada may be behind us. I tend to share this sentiment, not to alarm, but to acknowledge a painful reality. The statistics are stark. According to B'nai B'rith Canada's 2024 audit, anti-Semitic incidents rose by 8% from 2023, but that followed a 125% surge since 2022. Synagogues have been firebombed, Jewish schools targeted with gunfire, and Jewish students harassed on university campuses. Our children, particularly those attending Jewish day schools, are less safe than they were a generation ago. As a rabbi, as a parent with children in those schools, and as someone who serves on a committee with the chief of police in this city, I can tell you honestly, the threat is real. B'nai B'rith isn't just scaring us with crazy statistics. Nothing is more precious than the safety of our children, and we are vulnerable in ways we have not been in decades. For the past 10 years, our community has worked tirelessly to appeal to governments at all levels to address this rising tide of anti-Semitism. Some efforts bore fruit, others fell short. Many of us grew frustrated with the federal Liberal government, particularly under Justin Trudeau, for policies that seemed to isolate Israel, especially after the October 7th Hamas attack. The Liberal government's reluctance to unequivocally condemn accusations of genocide against Israel, accusations often used to delegitimize the Jewish state, felt like a betrayal to many. In contrast, the Conservative Party, led by Pierre Poilievre, appeared more attentive to our concerns, promising tougher measures against anti-Semitic violence and stronger support for Israel. I say this not as a partisan, but as an observation grounded in their public statements and actions. Yet the election results are clear. The Liberals, now led by Mark Carney, have won again. This outcome has stirred complex emotions in our community. Many of us hoped for change, pinning our hopes on the Conservatives. But we must recognize that many good, thoughtful Jewish people voted Liberal. Not everyone is a single-issue voter. Canada faces a multitude of challenges: economic uncertainty, trade tensions with the United States, housing crises, and some believed, with reason, that the Liberals were better equipped to navigate these issues. I've spoken to many Liberal voters. They confessed that they cast their ballots with reluctance, weighing competing priorities. To label these voters as treasonous or disloyal is wrong and dangerous. Our tone matters. Our language matters. This brings me to a critical point. The intensity within our own community during this election has at times been destructive. We've seen Jewish candidates, whether liberal or conservative, face harsh personal attacks, not just on their policies, but on their character and humanity. We've seen members of this very congregation speak past each other, letting disagreement curdle into division. We must do better. Every year, I watch the Yom HaAtzmaut torch-lighting ceremony, broadcast live from Har Herzl in Jerusalem. It never fails to inspire me. This year, among the 12 outstanding torchlighters, this was just a few days ago, were two remarkable individuals: Ben Shapiro, the conservative political commentator whose views spark fierce debate, and Dana International, a pioneer of Israel's LGBTQ community who won the Eurovision Song Contest in 1998. Could there be two more different people, two more divergent worldviews? Shapiro with his traditionalist lens, and Dana, a trailblazer for inclusivity and self-expression, stand on opposite ends of many spectrums. And yet there they were, side by side, honored for their contributions to the Jewish state. Friends, I could not have been prouder to see them both up there. Their presence encapsulates why Israel is such an incredible country, and it encapsulates the Jewish people at its best. Israel thrives not when it erases differences, but when it embraces them. Not when it erases differences, but when it embraces them. When it recognizes that Israel's strength lies in its ability to celebrate diverse voices united by a shared commitment to the Jewish people. This is a lesson for us too. We can do better at honoring our differences, not just tolerating them, but seeing them as a source of vitality. When we disagree, whether on politics or identity, let's do it with grace. When we debate, let's do it with patience. Understand that our shared Jewish identity is stronger than any political divide. As Pirkei Avot teaches, Hillel says, "Be of the disciples of Aaron, loving peace and pursuing peace." Let's pursue peace within our community, even when we grapple with hard truths. So here we are. Mark Carney is our Prime Minister. As Jews, it is our sacred duty to pray for the success of our leaders and our government. Canada faces immense challenges, as does the world. We need leaders who are wise, effective, and guided by moral clarity. We pray, as we do in our weekly liturgy, that God grant our leaders of his Spirit and his counsel, that they may govern with justice and compassion. To address the heart of this sermon, I want to speak to the pessimism that pervades our community about the future of Jewish life in Canada. I hear this in conversations and in the growing interest among many, particularly of my generation, to leave for Israel, the United States, or elsewhere. This saddens me deeply, but I don't want to dismiss these feelings as overblown. For those who have not personally encountered anti-Semitism, it's tempting to say, come on, it's not that bad. But trust me, those of us on the front lines, in synagogues, schools, and community centers, know the fear is real. For many centuries, our story has been seeking places where we can live safely and thrive. And some now question whether Canada remains that place. But I stand before you to say that I believe deeply in the fiber of my being that Jewish life in Canada is not over. The election of Mark Carney is not going to be the end of our story here. Canadians at their core are good people. They believe in liberal democracy, diversity, and human rights, values that have historically made Canada a refuge for us. The country may veer off course from time to time, but we have to fight to realign it with those principles. We will face more anti-Semitism and hate crimes. That is a painful reality. I believe stronger laws and enforcement are essential, and Carney promised us that with his proposal to pass tougher federal laws to stop people from being harassed at their places of worship and schools. We will hold him to that commitment. We also face challenges as a faith community. There may be efforts in the coming years to curtail privileges for synagogues, churches, and all faith-based institutions. These are serious threats to the long-term survival of our schools and community centers, and we're already starting to join with other faith communities, Christians, Muslim, Sikhs, and others, to advocate for religious freedom for everyone, because our well-being is tied to the broader health of Canada's pluralistic society. But here's the core of my message today. Challenges are not always a curse. In our tradition, they are often a crucible for strength and resilience. Consider this week's Torah portion, which deals with impurity and purification. At first glance, the afflictions described, tzara'at, often mistranslated as leprosy, seem like punishments. But the sages teach us that these challenges were opportunities for growth. The person afflicted was isolated, that's true, but they were also given a path to purification, a process to emerge stronger and spiritually renewed. The Midrash tells us that tzara'at could be a divine call to introspection, a chance to correct one's ways and return to community with greater purpose. Look to our history. When we faced the destruction of the Second Temple, we didn't despair. We built the rabbinic tradition, creating a portable Judaism that sustained us in exile. When we faced expulsion from Spain, we spread across the globe, seeding new communities that enrich Jewish life. Challenges forged our resilience. Consider Israel today. Our brothers and sisters there face existential threats, terrorism, war, global condemnation, far greater threats than we face in Canada. Yet, they respond with a warrior spirit. They're not leaving. A fierce pride in their Jewish identity, a pride that should inspire us all. They don't give up, and neither should we. The Talmud states in Tractate Brachot, just as the olive yields oil only when it is pressed, so too does a person yield their greatness only when pressed by challenges. We, the Jewish community in Canada, are being pressed. Anti-Semitism, political disappointment, fear for our children, these are real. But they are also opportunities to grow stronger, to deepen our faith, to sharpen our advocacy. I hope, for the most part, we're going to stay right here, and that we will learn from Israel's example. Stay proud of who you are. Wear your kippah. Light your Shabbos candles. Send your children to our schools, not with fear, but with defiance and with joy. We must advocate for a Canada true to its values, a Canada that stands with Israel because it is a democracy that stands with all democracies against dictators, terrorists, and extremists. A Canada that confronts hatred from whichever side. A Canada that upholds human rights and dignity for all. This work won't be easy, but it is worthy. As Rabbi Tarfon said in Pirkei Avot, it is not your responsibility to finish the work, but neither are you free to desist from it. So let us move forward together. Let us disagree with love, pray for our leaders, and face our challenges with courage. Let us be like the olive, pressed but yielding light. Let us build a Jewish future in Canada that is strong, vibrant, and unafraid, and may God grant us the wisdom and resilience to make it so. Shabbat Shalom.